The emergency beacons pulsed through the void of space, their desperate signals rippling across the star systems of the Galactic Alliance. In the crystalline command center of New Meridia, First Speaker Lazara watched the holographic displays with mounting dread. Her species' bioluminescent markings flickered anxiously as another wave of data confirmed their worst fears. The Kraken Dominion's warfleet had entered their system, 50 ships strong, bristling with weapons that could shatter their floating crystal cities into cosmic dust. The Meridians, despite all their advances in biotechnology and stellar engineering, had never developed significant weapons. Their bodies, evolved in the gentle embrace of a low-gravity world, made them natural scientists and artists, not warriors. First Speaker, her aide Corin's voice wavered as he approached. The Alliance Council has declined our request for immediate military aid. They say mobilizing a response fleet would take weeks. Lazara's inner light dimmed slightly. They didn't have weeks. The Kraken Dominion, infamous for stripping entire worlds of resources and enslaving their populations, would reach New Meridia in less than 3 days. Their civilization of 15 billion souls, built over millennia of peaceful development, faced extinction. What about the Arcturus Defense Pact? She asked, though she already knew the answer. They expressed their deepest regrets, but claim their forces are tied up dealing with pirate incursions in their own territory. Corin's crystalline form shimmered with frustration. First Speaker, there might be one other option. Lazara turned to face him, noting how his usual pristine glow had become mottled with anxiety. Speak freely, Corin. The humans, he said simply. The command center fell silent. Even the subtle harmonics that usually resonated through their crystal technology seemed to dim. Everyone knew about the humans, the mysterious Deathworlders who had emerged onto the galactic stage just 15 years ago. Their homeworld, Earth, was a nightmare by Meridian standards. Crushing gravity, extreme temperature variations, and aggressive predators that had shaped them into something most species considered terrifying. The humans, Lazara repeated carefully. The same humans whose average member could accidentally kill one of us with a handshake, who can survive radiation levels that would dissolve our bodies. Those humans. Yes, Corin's voice grew stronger. The same humans who, despite their strength, have never initiated a conflict since joining the galactic community. The same humans who sent aid ships into the heart of the Nexus plague outbreak when every other species fled. They're powerful enough to face the Dominion, and their nearest fleet is only 2 systems away. Lazara moved to the central console, her crystalline fingers dancing across the controls as she pulled up the relevant data. The humans had indeed established a presence in the neighboring sectors, though they generally kept to themselves unless invited to participate in trade or diplomatic missions. Their ships were ugly by Meridian standards, all sharp angles and armored plates rather than the flowing crystalline aesthetics her people preferred. But they were undeniably powerful. The Council specifically warned against seeking human military aid, she mused. They fear it would set a dangerous precedent, encouraging the Deathworlders to take a more aggressive role in galactic politics. With respect, First Speaker, another aide, Tellara, joined the conversation. If we do nothing, there won't be any Meridian politics left to worry about. The Dominion will strip our worlds bare and sell our people into slavery, those they don't simply kill for resisting. Lazara felt the weight of 15 billion lives pressing down on her conscience. The humans were dangerous, yes, but they were dangerous in the way a guardian beast was dangerous, capable of great destruction, but also of protection. And right now, her people desperately needed protection. Open a channel, she commanded, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. Broadcast on all frequencies used by human vessels. Add their primitive radio waves as well. They seem to prefer those sometimes. As her staff scrambled to comply, Lazara composed her message carefully. Humans, she had learned, responded well to direct honesty. To any human vessels within range. This is First Speaker Lazara of the Meridian Collective. Our worlds face imminent invasion by the Kraken Dominion. We are a peaceful species with limited defensive capabilities. In 3 days, our civilization of 15 billion will be destroyed or enslaved unless we receive aid. We understand the risks of interaction with your species, but we would rather face those risks than certain annihilation. Please respond." The message began broadcasting, repeating in multiple formats and frequencies. Lizara watched the status displays, trying not to let hope overcome reason. The humans might refuse. They might not answer at all. They might. The main communication array suddenly lit up with an incoming response. A deep voice, rough by Meridian standards, filled the command center. "First speaker, Lizara. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Hyperion. Message received and understood. Be advised that Task Force Defender, consisting of 5 heavy combat vessels, is altering course to your position. Expected arrival time, 48 hours. Please transmit tactical data on the Dominion fleet. We will not allow your people to face this threat alone. Chen out." The command center erupted in a cascade of crystalline chimes, the Meridian equivalent of relieved murmuring. Lizara felt her own bioluminescence brighten considerably. They had done it. They had called the monsters of Earth to their aid. Now they could only pray that these monsters would prove to be the guardians they needed, rather than simply a different kind of destroyer. "Send them everything we have on the Dominion fleet," she ordered, "and begin preparing our people for the arrival of our allies. They'll need special facilities, reinforced areas to accommodate their gravity requirements. And most importantly, they'll need our trust." As her staff rushed to comply, Lizara gazed out at the starfield visible through the crystal walls of the command center. Somewhere out there, humanity's warships were burning hard through space to reach them, while the Dominion fleet approached from the opposite direction. In less than 2 days, 2 of the most powerful forces in known space would clash over the fate of her people. She could only hope they had made the right choice. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the UES Hyperion's bridge, watching the crystalline structures of New Meridia grow larger as they approached. The massive human warship, nearly 2 kilometers of armored titanium and advanced composites, dwarfed the delicate alien architecture below. Behind the Hyperion, 4 more human vessels held formation: the Artemis, Orion, Zeus, and Athena, each a testament to humanity's mastery of warfare. Final approach vector locked. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from the helm. "Permission to begin deceleration burn." "Granted," Chen replied, "but keep it gentle. Their orbital stations weren't built to handle our engine wash." She turned to face her bridge crew, noting the tension in their postures. They had all trained for first contact scenarios, but this was different. They weren't just making contact. They were about to become the guardians of an entire civilization. "Remember your environmental training," she addressed the crew. "The Meridians evolved in 1/3 Earth gravity. Their structures, while incredibly sophisticated, are fragile by our standards. Every step you take on their stations or cities must be measured and careful. One wrong move could shatter support beams that took centuries to grow." Commander David Walsh, her XO, stepped forward. "Latest intel from Meridian sensors shows the Dominion fleet continuing their approach. 48 ships now, ma'am. They've picked up reinforcements." Chen nodded grimly. The Kraken Dominion had a reputation for overwhelming force, using their superior numbers to crush any resistance. But they had never faced human warships before. They had never faced Deathworlders who had spent millennia fighting not just each other, but their very planet for survival. The Hyperion's communication array chimed. "Captain," the comms officer called out, "First Speaker Lizara is requesting permission to come aboard with a delegation. They want to coordinate defense strategies." "Granted. Have medical prep the reinforced section of the diplomatic bay. And make sure everyone on the reception team is wearing impact dampeners." Chen straightened her uniform. "Time to show our new allies that humanity's strength can be controlled." The Meridian delegation materialized in the Hyperion's specially prepared reception area an hour later. Chen had to suppress a gasp. Holographic images hadn't done justice to their alien beauty. The Meridians were vaguely humanoid in shape, but their bodies were semi-transparent, composed of living crystal that pulsed with internal light. First Speaker Lizara stood slightly taller than her companions, her crystalline form refracting the room's lighting in complex patterns. "Welcome aboard the Hyperion," Chen said softly, careful to modulate her voice. Even sound vibrations could be uncomfortable for their guests. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen." Lizara stepped forward, her movements fluid and graceful. "Captain, we admit to some trepidation about coming aboard a human vessel. But these are desperate times." She gestured to her companions. "My chief strategist, Corin, and our defense coordinator, Tilara." Chen led them to a conference room, equipped with specially designed chairs that would support their crystalline forms without risking damage. As they walked, she noticed how the Meridians flinched slightly every time a human crew member passed by, even though everyone was moving with exaggerated care. "The Dominion fleet will arrive in 18 hours, Corin reported once they were seated. "Our long-range scans confirm they're carrying ground invasion forces. They mean to take our worlds intact. The crystal cities are too valuable to simply destroy." "Then that's our advantage," Chen replied, activating a holographic tactical display. "They'll have to engage carefully, which limits their options. Now tell me everything about your defensive capabilities, no matter how minor. We'll need every edge we can get." The next several hours were a crash course in Meridian technology. While they had few weapons, their mastery of crystal engineering had produced incredible shields and sensor systems. Their cities could redirect and absorb enormous amounts of energy, a necessity for a species that built with living crystal. "What about your population?" Commander Walsh asked. "We need to prepare for civilian evacuation if things go wrong." Talara's inner light flickered anxiously. "Our people are not built for rapid movement. A mass evacuation would cause thousands of casualties from stress and physical damage alone." "Then we don't evacuate," Chen stated firmly. "We hold the line. Period." She stood, careful not to move too quickly. "Your people built something beautiful here. Cities of living crystal, an entire civilization dedicated to peace and discovery. Humanity knows what it's like to be seen as monsters by the galaxy. Let us show them that sometimes you need monsters to protect what's beautiful." Lizara's crystalline form seemed to shimmer with emotion. "You would risk your ships and crews for us, even though most of the galaxy sees you as dangerous primitives." Chen smiled. "First Speaker, humanity spent thousands of years fighting among ourselves. We learned the hard way that strength without purpose is just brutality, but strength in the service of protecting others. That's civilization. That's what makes us more than the monsters they think we are." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came over the comm. "Multiple FTL signatures detected. The Dominion fleet has arrived early. They're launching fighters." Chen turned to her alien guests, noting the fear in their bioluminescent patterns. "Get back to your command center. Coordinate your shield networks with our tactical systems." Her voice took on an edge of steel. "Show them what happens when humanity's monsters decide to play guardian angels." As the Meridians hurried to their transport pad, Chen was already issuing orders to her fleet. 5 human warships against 48 Dominion vessels. The enemy probably thought those were good odds in their favor. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The void between New Meridia's crystalline cities erupted in flames as the first wave of Dominion fighters crashed against the human fleet's defensive screen. The UES Hyperion's point defense systems tracked and eliminated targets with ruthless efficiency, each shot calculated to minimize debris that might threaten the fragile Meridian structures below. Multiple capital ships launching bomber squadrons, Commander Walsh reported, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. "They're trying to overwhelm our point defense grid." Captain Chen nodded, watching the tactical hologram as it displayed the unfolding battle in real time. The Dominion fleet had spread out in a standard conquest formation, expecting to find only the token resistance typical of their usual victims. Instead, they had found 5 human warships that refused to back down. Artemis, Orion, maintain screen formation. Chen ordered. Zeus, Athena, prepare for attack pattern Delta 7. Hyperion will coordinate. She turned to her weapons officer. Status on the crystal resonance torpedoes. Armed and ready, Captain. The Meridian's data on crystal harmonics has been integrated into the guidance systems. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Dominion had expected to face helpless prey, but the Meridian's scientific knowledge combined with human military technology had produced weapons specifically designed to target the weaknesses in Dominion ships' crystalline power cores. Sometimes the best defense was a surprisingly well-informed offense. Launch first salvo, dispersal pattern theta. Let's show them what happens when you threaten our allies. The battle space lit up as the human ships launched their first coordinated attack. The resonance torpedoes slipped through the Dominion's energy shields as if they weren't there, their frequencies precisely calibrated to pass through the defensive screens. When they detonated, they didn't explode with conventional force. Instead, they released carefully tuned energy pulses that shattered the crystal matrices powering the Dominion vessels. 3 enemy capital ships went dark almost immediately, their crews scrambling to contain cascading power failures. But the Dominion hadn't conquered half a sector by being easily defeated. Their remaining ships began to adapt, adjusting shield frequencies and launching countermeasures. Captain, Lieutenant Rodriguez called out. They're targeting the orbital tethers. If those break, the crystal cities will lose stabilization. Chen's mind raced. The Dominion was trying to force them to split their defense, to choose between protecting the cities and pressing their attack. It was a solid strategy, except they didn't know about humanity's greatest advantage, their ability to endure what would kill most species. All hands, prepare for high-G maneuvers, Chen ordered, strapping herself into her command chair. Medical, stand by for casualties. Engineering, divert power from life support to engines and structural integrity. She opened a channel to the rest of her fleet. Task Force Defender, execute Operation Avalanche. What followed would have been suicide for most spacefaring races. The 5 human ships engaged their main drives at maximum thrust, subjecting their crews to forces that would have turned most alien species to paste. They drove straight through the Dominion formation, their superior acceleration and maneuverability allowing them to slip between enemy vessels while maintaining point-blank firing solutions. In the Meridian Command Center, First Speaker Lazara watched in awe as the human ships pulled maneuvers that should have killed their crews instantly. How are they surviving those forces? She whispered. Because they're human, Corin replied, his crystalline form vibrating with excitement. Their bodies evolved to withstand impacts that would shatter us. What looks like suicide to us is Tuesday morning practice for them. The battle continued to evolve as both sides adapted to each other's tactics. The Dominion's numerical superiority allowed them to coordinate complex attack patterns, but the humans' ability to endure extreme conditions let them respond in ways their enemies couldn't predict or counter. Multiple hull breaches on decks 4 through 7, damage control reported. Emergency force fields holding. Reroute power from affected sections, Chen ordered. Status on the Meridian Shield Network. Operating at 93% efficiency, Captain. Their crystal towers are actually amplifying our defensive fields. The cities are safer than we expected. Chen watched as another Dominion ship succumbed to their resonance weapons, its crystal core shattering in a spectacular display of light and energy. But too many enemy vessels remained, and her ships couldn't maintain this level of punishment forever. That's when she noticed something in the tactical display, a pattern in the enemy's formation. The Dominion ships were maintaining very specific distances from each other, likely to optimize their shield coverage. But those precisely calculated distances assumed they were fighting opponents who would break formation under pressure. All ships, new coordinates being transmitted, Chen announced. Prepare for synchronized microjump on my mark. She turned to her navigation officer. Plot FTL solutions between their formation gaps. Minimum safe distance calculations can be ignored. We're built tougher than their safety margins. The crew understood what she was planning. It was insane by most species standards, using faster-than-light drives for tactical jumps inside a gravity well, appearing literally inside the enemy's formation. The precision required was incredible, and the margin for error was practically zero. In other words, it was exactly the kind of crazy that humanity excelled at. Task Force Defender, execute jump on my mark. Chen gripped her command chair. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The human ships vanished in flashes of light, reappearing seconds later in the heart of the enemy formation. The Dominion commanders had positioned their ships assuming no one would be crazy enough to jump into the spaces between their vessels. They had assumed wrong. What followed was chaos. Beautiful, terrible, calculated chaos. Human ships unleashing point-blank fire into enemy vessels that had never expected to fight at such close range. Resonance torpedoes finding their marks with deadly accuracy. The Dominion formation, so carefully maintained, shattered as ships tried to avoid colliding with both the humans and each other. Multiple enemy vessels breaking formation, Tactical reported. They're falling back to regroup. Chen allowed herself to breathe. They had bloodied the Dominion's nose, shown them that humanity's reputation as Deathworlders wasn't just about physical strength. It was about the willingness to do what others considered impossible. But the battle wasn't over. Not yet. And she had a feeling the Dominion was about to show them why they had conquered so much territory in the first place. The aftermath of battle painted New Meridia's orbit with debris and emergency beacons. The Dominion fleet had retreated, leaving behind their damaged and crippled vessels. But victory had come at a cost. The UEA's Hyperion's medical bay was filled with injured crew members, while engineering teams worked frantically to repair critical systems. In the Meridian Central Hospital, First Speaker Lizora watched in fascination as human medical personnel worked alongside her people's healers. Dr. Lisa Chen, the Hyperion's chief medical officer and Captain Chen's sister, moved with surprising delicacy as she treated both human and Meridian patients. "Your cellular regeneration technology is remarkable," Dr. Chen said, examining a Meridian healing crystal. "The way it interfaces with living tissue. We could save so many lives with something like this." Lizora's crystalline form pulsed with curiosity. "Yet your own medical techniques are equally impressive. The way you can survive injuries that would shatter our bodies. Your healing factor is extraordinary." "Evolution's gift," Lisa replied, carefully adjusting a regeneration field around an injured Meridian. "Earth wasn't kind to our ancestors. We either learned to heal quickly or we died." She paused, considering her next words. "Though I have to admit, watching your people work has taught me that there are gentler ways to promote healing." The hospital room fell silent as a group of human engineers passed by, carrying repair equipment to help restore damaged sections of the Crystal City. Each human moved with exaggerated care, their powered armor adjusted to minimize vibrations. It was a far cry from the terrifying warriors who had just fought off the Dominion fleet. "You know," Lizora began, "when we first called for help, many of my advisors feared we were simply choosing a quicker death. They believed that even if you saved us from the Dominion, your mere presence would accidentally destroy our civilization." Dr. Chen nodded understanding. "And now I watch your people tiptoe through our corridors, using your fearsome strength with such gentleness. Your warriors become healers. Your engineers learn to repair living crystal." Lizora's bioluminescence brightened. "Perhaps we were all wrong about humans. You're not monsters who learn to fake civility. You're guardians who learn to control your power." On the Hyperion's bridge, Captain Sarah Chen reviewed damage reports with Commander Walsh. The ship had taken heavy hits during the battle, but human engineering combined with Meridian crystal tech was already bringing systems back online. "Latest intel suggests the Dominion fleet has withdrawn to the sector's edge," Walsh reported. "They're likely waiting for reinforcements before attempting another attack." "Which gives us time to prepare," Chen replied. She turned to look out the viewport at the crystal cities below. How are our crews handling the environmental restrictions? Walsh smiled slightly. Better than expected. There's something about protecting someone more vulnerable that brings out the best in humans. The engineering teams are practically obsessed with learning how to work with the crystal structures without damaging them. It's not just them, Chen admitted. I've been studying the Meridians' approach to leadership, their consensus building, their emphasis on harmony. There's wisdom there that we could learn from. The conversation was interrupted by an alert from the sensor station. Captain, we're detecting multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the system's edge. The officer's voice held a note of surprise. They're Arcturus Defense Pact vessels, ma'am. A full battle fleet. Chen's expression hardened. The same allies who had refused to help the Meridians were now arriving after the danger had passed. Open a channel. The communication screen lit up, showing an Arcturian commander, their insectoid features arranged in what passed for diplomatic neutrality. Captain Chen. The Arcturus Defense Pact has come to assist in defending Meridian space from aggression. How convenient, Chen replied coldly. Though I note your arrival comes after we've already repelled the Dominion fleet. We had to follow proper protocols. The Arcturian began. No, Chen cut them off. You had to wait until it was safe. Until someone else had done the hard work and taken the risks. She straightened in her command chair. The Meridians called for help in their hour of need. Humanity answered. We've bled for them, fought for them, and earned their trust. If you want to help now, you'll coordinate through us. The Arcturian commander's antenna twitched in surprise. Through humans, but your species is barely known in galactic politics. You're considered too dangerous to. Too dangerous. Chen smiled. Yes, we are dangerous. Dangerous enough to stand against the Dominion when no one else would. Dangerous enough to risk our lives protecting those who needed us. She leaned forward. But more importantly, we're dangerous enough to ensure that what happened here, allies abandoning allies out of fear and protocol, never happens again. In the crystal cities below, humans and Meridians continue to work together, rebuilding what the battle had damaged. Engineers exchanged knowledge, medics shared techniques, and two vastly different species learned that strength and gentleness were not opposing forces, but complementary ones. The galaxy had long feared humanity's power. Now they would learn to respect how that power was used. The Deathworlders had become protectors. The monsters had become guardians, and the future of galactic civilization looked very different than anyone had expected. 1 month after the Battle of New Meridia, the crystal cities gleamed with renewed brilliance. Where Dominion weapons had scared the living crystal, human engineering combined with Meridian biotechnology had created something unprecedented, stronger sections of crystal that retained their original beauty, while incorporating lessons learned from human architectural principles. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Alliance Chamber, a vast space where the crystalline architecture of the Meridians merged seamlessly with human-designed reinforced sections. Representatives from 24 species had gathered to witness something many had thought impossible, the formal signing of the Human Meridian Defense Pact. When we first contacted the humans, First Speaker Lazura addressed the assembled delegates, her crystalline form casting prismatic patterns across the chamber. Many called it an act of desperation. Some even suggested we had traded one doom for another. She paused, her bioluminescence brightening. They were right about the desperation, but they were wrong about everything else. The chamber's attention shifted to the main display, showing footage from the past month. Humans in specialized environmental suits working alongside Meridians to rebuild damaged structures. Joint research teams developing new technologies that combined human resilience with Meridian elegance. Defense exercises where human warships practiced intricate maneuvers around crystal cities, demonstrating their ability to protect without endangering. The Kraken Dominion believed they could take our worlds because we were peaceful, Lazura continued. The Arcturus Defense Pact and others believed they could abandon us because we were weak. Both were wrong, because both failed to understand a fundamental truth. True strength isn't about the ability to destroy. It's about the wisdom to know when to use power, and the control to use it precisely. Captain Chen stepped forward, her movements careful and measured despite wearing a standard uniform rather than environmental gear. After weeks of practice, the human personnel had learned to move naturally while still respecting the Meridian's fragility. Humanity came to the stars carrying the legacy of our homeworld. Chen addressed the chamber. Earth shaped us into what many called monsters, beings capable of surviving conditions that would kill most species. We were feared, isolated, kept at arm's length by a galactic community that saw only our potential for destruction. She gestured to the Meridian delegation. But the Meridians saw something else. They saw past their fear to recognize that strength can protect as well as destroy. They gave us the chance to prove that humanity's power could be a shield for peace rather than a weapon of war. The main display shifted to show the edge of Meridian space, where human warships now patrolled alongside newly constructed defensive platforms that merged both species' technologies. The Dominion fleet had not returned, and intelligence suggested they had abandoned their expansion plans in this sector entirely. Today, we formalize what began in desperate circumstances, Lizara announced. The Human Meridian Defense Pact is more than a military alliance. It is a blueprint for how different species can complement each other's strengths and overcome their weaknesses together. The chamber erupted in discussion as the terms of the pact were displayed. It went far beyond typical defense agreements, including technological exchange protocols, joint research initiatives, and most surprisingly, a program to train other species in working with both humans and Meridians. Let me be clear, Chen addressed the concerned murmurs. This alliance is not about creating a new power block in the galaxy. It's about showing that the very differences that divide us can become the bridges that unite us. The Meridians taught us the value of precision, of harmony, of finding peaceful solutions. In return, we showed them that strength, properly controlled, can preserve peace rather than destroy it. An Arcturian representative raised their appendage. But the danger, the risks of closer human integration with galactic society, are far less than the risk of continuing to isolate a species because of fear, Lizara cut in. The humans have demonstrated something remarkable, the ability to modulate their tremendous strength to protect even the most fragile among us. They are not the monsters many believe them to be. They are proof that evolution's gifts, no matter how frightening they may appear, can be used for the benefit of all. The signing ceremony proceeded, each delegate watching as human and Meridian representatives formalized their unprecedented alliance. But the real impact could be seen in the streets and spaces of New Meridia, where humans had become a common sight, their careful movements among the crystal structures no longer causing alarm but inspiring confidence. In orbit, the UES Hyperion maintained its watch alongside newly arrived Meridian ships designed with human assistance, vessels that combined crystal technology with human durability. Captain Chen observed them from her bridge, remembering the desperate battle that had started all this. Status report from the border patrols, Commander Walsh announced. 3 more systems have requested to join the Defense Pact. Apparently, word of our success has spread. Chen nodded, watching a team of human engineers using powered exoskeletons to help install a new crystal matrix on a Meridian station. The sight of such powerful beings working with microscopic precision had become normal here, a symbol of what was possible when fear gave way to understanding. You know, she mused, Earth's history is full of stories about monsters who became guardians. I never thought we'd become one of those stories ourselves. The galaxy was changing. The species once feared as Deathworlders had found their true calling not in war, but in protection. The Meridians, once dismissed as too fragile for the harsh realities of space, had shown that physical weakness did not preclude strength of spirit. Together, they had created something new, a future where differences in evolution became reasons to cooperate rather than separate. The monsters had become guardians, and the galaxy would never be the same.